imagine you're a warehouse that's receiving a shipment from a client and you don't know how many assets are going to be in this shipment. A client has just said, I'm going to send you a box full of assets, which are going to be
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want it to be, whether it's lamps and, or it's folders or it's devices like laptops and printers. Um, so they've told you they're going to send those to you, and then when someone's receiving those items, you want them to be registering it into a system to say, I just received 7 laptops, right? And you want to like just put the number 7 and put the category of what the item is, and then that goes and generates 7 unique records in your base, so you can track now each one of those laptops as
Mm-hmm.
its own record. But like you want that user experience for the person receiving these items to be very smooth, of just entering a number, clicking go. Um, so I guess that's like the
So you
setup.
can you can do that in Airtable is what you're saying without scripting. So it's going to be somewhat of a simpler solution than I was coming up with because I used to create n number of records is basically what you're saying, and n being like a placeholder value for you put in whatever number you want. I want 10 records. I want 15 records. You're saying you can create X or n number of records on demand.
Exactly. Exactly. So we'll keep the table or the base simple. The first table is simply going to be like, what project is this, or projects? And then you're going to have one more table for asset generation. This will be its own table because this is the table where the form submissions are going to be. And then lastly, you're going to have your assets table, right? So a project is going to like link to this asset generation. We can already make that connection pretty quickly. It's also going to link to assets. Okay. Now, asset generation, you might have like a single select for like what the type is, category, for instance. And let's just say we have laptops, or laptop, we have desktop, and we have handheld. And let's do one more for a tablet. So we have these various categories, and we're going to have a quantity.
So
That
this table is going to be what somebody uses to say, I want this quantity of this category of asset.
exactly. I want to generate this many of this category linked to this project. So like I'm working on project X, and I just counted in front of me 5 laptops, and I want that to now generate 5 assets and link those assets to the project table. So that's a pretty common like use case. They want a simple user experience. They don't want someone adding 5 assets and having user error. They want someone
Mm-hmm.
just focusing on the task at hand in front of them, inputting into a simple form and onto the next category. So in one project, I might have 7 different categories. I might even have 5 laptops right now, and then at the end of the count, I find 3 more, and I want to generate 3 more laptops, right? So this is just
Mm-hmm.
a like user experience that we're building here. But in Airtable, this is the way, like this is when it's fun, is when a client is telling you the user experience they need, and you
Yep.
can then go, okay, what does that mean in terms of schema, and in terms of fields and automation? And that's like where this magic starts to happen.
Okay. So where would you go from here?
So here's where I'm going to pause to see. Let's see, how did I? Because, oh man, it's going to be hard with this Zoom. This is the final formula. Obviously, it's a bit ugly because it's like one formula instead of multiple kind of thing. But
So what's the goal of this formula and concept? Is the goal to get like a comma separated list out of this? Is that the end goal?
Exactly. The end goal is that when I put 5, it's going to give me a comma delineated list with each one of these strings being a unique string.
That I feel like is the hardest part. Like I could think of using the REPT or the rept formula, and that would give me 5, I think, unique items in a list. So I'm going to add a field that is the rept formula just to show that. The rept formula, if I just type it in like category, for example, and then quantity, that is just going to repeat something however many times you want. So that's what the rept formula does. But I imagine, are you using the rept formula in
We're
your use
not.
case?
We're not. And the reason is, and I'm seeing this now, is because each string has to be unique in this
Yep.
comma delineated list. And this repeat is just going to repeat the same thing over and over. We don't want that. We want it to be a list that says like 1 dot this record, 2 dot this, 3 dot this, paste that, and then work on that record. So in order to do that, you need to use a very complex formula that uses log and floor to get like what number am I targeting. So
I've never used these formulas. These are new formulas to me. This is pretty cool.
okay, so so I'm actually going to pull it from the raw base because that formula is harder to understand than the initial ones. Let me find that.
Log and floor. So log, I'm going to read this while he's pulling that up. Log computes the logarithm of the value in the provided base. The base defaults to 10 if not specified. Floor returns the nearest integer multiple of significance. 1 if not provided, that is less than or equal to value. Okay, this is wild, Charlie. How did you come up with this? Is this your like finance background?
This
That
was
you do
something
these?
that no, I think I found this when I was doing a deep dive to solve this like 3.5 years ago. So I can't take credit for building this formula. I think I found it on a very random thread somewhere. I've used it though a lot since then.
Okay.
So shout out to whoever did figure out what this formula did mean, but I do know how it works. So I can show you guys, and down in the description, we're gonna have a bit of like a the base that's gonna show these formulas, and you can use these things.
Right. So down in the pinned comment or the description, there'll be a link where you basically click on the link, put in your email, and then that adds you as a read-only user to this. You just have to check your email, but it adds you as a read-only. You can then copy the space. Yeah, Charlie deleted my formula because it's useless.
Useless. All right, let's see. So the first important thing in this combination is a very simple field that's simply going to output this array. Very simple. And let's call this array 1 to 999. And this also assumes that you're never going to generate more than 999 of something. This is an upper limit. I could make this longer. I could make this 999,000 if I wanted to, right? That's the limit of what this can output. But this is the first part of the formula, is having this output here as a formula.
Okay, I can see where I can see now where this is. I was wondering because that's what I was kind of racking my brain against. I was like, there has to be some limitation with this, but it could be a very high limitation. Is what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the character limit is something large for this like formula output. So I'm not sure, but yeah, there is something. There's a limitation on it. There's no code. Come on, Ben. I'm not a scripter, like I can't do these types of things like some can. Okay, so let's go back to the formula, and I'm gonna paste this formula that I pulled from this other field, but I want to do array 99. Why isn't it finding that field? I wonder why this is freaking out so much. Let's count. That's
Was
why
count the quantity field?
Exactly.
I'll change that.
All right, that solved that. This is quantity. Okay, here we go. No, that did not output with name in it.
Charlie, do you understand log and floor enough to explain what those formulas are doing to the watcher? Because I do not. I mean, I'm happy to just say these work. Trust us. I mean, they obviously do work, but
Let's give it a shot. So we want to look at this array, right? And we want to pull from this array only when it finds the quantity in that array. So I only want to pull from that array where it finds this number that I'm just pasting here.
okay,
All right.
that makes sense.
Now that I do that though, so this closes the find. So left of find plus the floor, which returns the nearest integer multiple of significance when not provided. Which I think that just like normalizes it so that if it's like.
Is that in case you put like 5.2 in there?
I think so. I want to say so. If anything, that's overkill. Maybe like we can test this by removing it. Sorry. Wait, why isn't it giving me an error? So that didn't mess anything up. Let me change it on the original one. That's so weird that deleting that didn't give me an error. Wow. Okay, so the floor didn't affect anything, removing the floor. Oh, and substitute, that was it. I think this is the magic. Yeah, it's actually pretty simple. I think from what I understand here, it's extracting this array for you automatically, and then it's basically saying substitute all the commas in this array with comma and this. So let's go in and say here, I think this might be what's missing. Let me see. Oh, it's because these are missing. Oh man, no wonder. Oops. It was working. We hadn't filled out anything here. You see? So 27, it's outputting that. We just hadn't put the thing. So this is the first part. But desktop with its own integers doesn't mean anything, right? Like we need it to actually make sense when I paste it into the next table. So I'm actually going to put a combination of the project record ID. I want something unique to link this generation to that project. So I'm going to do a lookup of the project record ID. And I'm going to put that record ID now in this right over here. This is what's controlling what's output. So I'm going to do right here, I'm going to do record ID from projects, and I'm going to put a dot because I need to standardize all of this, and category. So now you see this one has a record ID. Let's link all of these to project X. And now the string has record ID desktop 1, right? Record ID desktop 2. So I have this unique string now. What's really important now is I also have to remove this leading comma. There's no reason for this to be there. So I typically will do just a separate formula for this, which is just like, oops, no, I did not want to duplicate that. So we're going to do right of calculation, and then we'll change these after. And then we'll do the length of the calculation -2. And this is just extracting the left 2 characters. And we're going to call this array output for automation. And Voila. You now have a nice array that I can paste. So should we move forward to the pasting and why that's magical?
Yes.
Yeah.
So wait, so what we have accomplished thus far, and I've been trying to do this as a side mission to see if I could do it, because I still don't personally understand the log formula. So I was like, could I make this work without the log formula? I'm not sure if you have a great explanation for why we need the log formula.
I don't know if we do. I don't know. It's a good question. Let's remove it. Plus log of quantity. I'm not sure that that does anything.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So
So that didn't do anything. I don't think. Oh yeah, it did. It made it really ugly. Oh wait, we did 275. Let's do this one.
well, I wanted to see, yeah, if it would keep on working.
But the 275 became pretty. Did it? No, it was actually perfect. Oh, at the end, look at that. Is
So
that the upper limit?
it, from what I can see, because I also tried this in Ben attempt without using log, mine also messed up on the very last one.
That's probably what it is.
Does that take like somehow the last?
It's
I don't even know.
adding. It's adding because it's a plus. It's adding to the whole like left of this. Wow, what is it?
There has to be some reason why this is useful.
Plus log of the quantity. I mean, let's isolate it. What's the log of the quantity right now? Right. So let's go and say, what's the formula? What's log of quantity? And in some cases it's 0. In this big case it was 2. Oh. A mathematician is looking at this and just laughing at us like, guys, come on.
Like
Look at that. So I think it's and I could be completely wrong, sorry mathematician, but I think it's like the amount of digits minus 1. And what was happening on the other one is it was cutting off like the last digit. Because like if I put another digit here, now log becomes 4, you see, because I have 5 digits. If I put another digit, log becomes 5.
So we're limited at up to 999 anyways.
Right, so that's like right around here. So how many are off if I take out the log? Interesting. It really messed up once you got to big numbers. That has to be what it is. Like 2655 just really messed up. Why?
Well, I think that's because it's way bigger than our array. Like our array only goes up to
Oh,
999.
99. I'm sorry, yeah. I was thinking 9,000.
So I added a minor tweak in my formula. Usually I do +1 to account for commas in my searches. And I added +2, and that appears to have made it work, except everything has 1 extra than you would expect, I think. Or at least like if I look at like in like the Ben attempt, quantity 1 returns 2 items.
Mm-hmm.
But every other quantity works as expected.
Yeah, I think that would have an upper limit.
I mean, the upper limit is still like I'm still using your formula. That's array 1 to 999.
But you see how like in the bigger numbers, I'm trying to understand the log. Like in the bigger numbers, it got to 655. Wait, we asked for 655. It got to, in your attempt, it got to 655. Oh, but you have your number in a weird way.
Yeah.
Why is it desktop 7? 1 desktop 7, 2 desktop 7, 3 desktop 7.
7 is like your record ID. I'm using an auto number field instead of record ID.
Gotcha. It got there. Okay, so you're saying it worked. It works well for the bigger numbers, or like the top end, but on the lower numbers it didn't.
I think only on 1. I guess I can try 2. No, for 2 it gives me 3. At what point does it break? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, it's probably when it's single digits. That would make sense. I think it must have something to do. Log must solve for something around this like single digits thing, because mine breaks when I go from 9 to 10, and then maybe that means it also could break for going from like double digits to triple digits.
Well, I think after all these edits, I've lost my original formula. And okay, no. I need to relook at that.
So as Troy was trying to find this, the goal with this is our output is a comma separated list of values where there's no commas leading or trailing, and each item in the comma separated list is a unique item. So each one of these is like the text between the commas. Each of those items is going to be unique. And if we can do that, then in our next video, we're going to be showing is how you can do some pretty cool stuff with Airtable. That actually like is some of the most powerful stuff that we do, especially when we're changing field types in sync tables or we're building reporting tables, is taking comma separated lists and using them in linked records.
So like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. That's right.
All right, so I think we got our final number here, which is calculation. All right, we're back to a safe place. So we now have a clean string that has like unique strings for each of like the units in the comma separated list. Okay, so like this is one of the most powerful things of Airtable is that you can paste a comma separated list into a linked record field, and Airtable will automatically either link records in that table to like your list, or it will create new records for records. This is assuming that the destination table's primary field is a free text field. That's a very important distinguishing component here. We often build primary fields to be formula fields, and this will require that the primary field is instead a text field. So that's a very big distinction here, but it's very powerful when you need it for things like this that are just table relationships, for this automation to happen in the most effective way.